What are you doing to be better prepared in 2021? After last year, a lot of us realized what our weaknesses were in the sense of preparation. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what my prepping goals of 2021 are, and hopefully you can take some ideas from it. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're going to talk about prepping goals in 2021. After the previous year, we should all have goals and we should all strive to do better in the sense of being more prepared and being more self-sufficient and finding what our weak points were over the last year. And a lot of things in the prepping world seem very unobtainable. They're hard to acquire. But without setting goals, you'll never find yourself in a position to actually have those things that you desire in the sense of being more self-reliant. So setting goals is very important, and I'm going to share my personal prepping goals with all of you to hopefully give you some ideas of things that you can work on as well, and just to give you some concepts as to what it is I'm working on over here, okay? So if you're preparing for things to possibly get worse in this year or to at least be more difficult, especially in relation to the economy, and you want to make sure that you're moving in the right direction when it comes to being more prepared and more self-sufficient, then hit the subscribe button below, because I'd love to take you on that journey with myself and my family and with everyone else in this community as we all try our best to be better prepared. So keep that in mind, because it's not just you by yourself. We can do this together, we can learn from each other, and there's a lot of things I'll be leaning on all of you for in the near future, okay? So my first goal for 2021 in the sense of prepping, and something that's very important and very hard to obtain and a lot of people desire but have a hard time acquiring, is going to be permanence of property and home, okay? We are in a position to try to acquire some property and try to purchase a home and get into a situation where we can have some viable permanence. And what I mean by that is that when you don't have a permanent scenario, it's very hard to invest and to basically put all of your effort into a home or a property in the sense of being more prepared that isn't yours and that you're not sure you're going to be at for a long period of time. It's hard to invest in necessary items that come to water storage or food production or anything along those lines if you don't even know if you're going to be in that place in the next year or so. And that's something that we are putting our foot down and saying we are going to be permanent somewhere very soon. And it's something that we're working on currently and that I'm hoping will be a reality in the near future that I can share with all of you. And it's something that, as a prepper and somebody who's worried about being more self-reliant, being able to homestead, being able to, produce calories, being able to produce whatever it is you need to on your own land and in your own home, and knowing that it's yours in the sense of not being allowed to be evicted or having a landlord to report to or anything along those lines, that is very important. Now, yes, of course, if you get a mortgage, the bank still owns your home. However, there's a lot more protection and a lot more homeowners' rights in regards to having a mortgage than being a renter. And so moving into that process is still more beneficial than not having anything at all. So keep that in mind. We're going to do our best to find a home, property, and some permanence where we are going to want to end up. And we're going to stay here in the great state of North Dakota because there's excellent politics here. There's excellent rules around things that I particularly enjoy, especially firearms. And there's the ability to be very remote because there is 0 people in this state. It's very, very sparsely populated. And for me, in the sense of preparation and worrying about some kind of an SHTF scenario in the future, that's the best place to be. So keep that in mind, because that is something that we're working on and that I find a lot of people are also striving for and setting goals for. And a big prepping goal is having that property that you can cultivate, having that home that you can feel permanent in, and knowing that you're going to be where you're going to be so you can invest the time, the effort, and the money into establishing that castle that we all want to have when it comes to being better prepared, okay? So, in order to keep the ball rolling in the sense of being better prepared, the first step, at least for me in this year of 2021, is to acquire that permanence of property and home. Because after that step, everything else kind of falls into place as being a possibility now that that step has been gotten out of the way, okay? There's a lot of great programs out there that everybody should research and understand that you don't have to come up with huge down payments anymore. You don't have to have the best credit in the world. There's a lot of ways to get around getting a home or buying property, and even having the state themselves pay your down payment for you based on the programs that are available, especially post this terrible economy. So utilize what you can, and don't be fooled by the concept that you need to have tons of money and excellent credit just to even get in the door. That's not necessarily true anymore, okay? So moving on from there. The second goal I have for this year in 2021 in regards to preparation that I think that everyone here can probably agree on is very important, is to produce our own calories, okay? So you can see how acquiring the property and the land is very important to be able to move on to the next step. And producing our own calories is something that we are adamant about. So we're gonna start building out gardens, we're gonna plant fruit-bearing trees, and we're gonna get livestock that we've had experience with in the past, but we don't currently have now due to our living situation once we have that home, property, and permanence. It's very easy to start investing in those things when you know you're not going anywhere. And that livestock, including things like goats and chickens, and when you move into the idea of gardening and growing your own vegetables and having fruit-bearing trees within the property, all of those things lead to being more self-sufficient and safer during an emergency event, especially with how brittle and fragile we see the supply chain is, and expecting it to get worse at some point in time here. We haven't caught up from everything that's occurred yet. In fact, I don't even think we've hit the bottom. So keep that in mind. We're seeing it all over the country. Anytime there's a major storm system, anytime there's any kind of a natural disaster, shelves are bare empty as if they haven't learned a single thing over the last year. And that's because they can't keep up. It's not about what they want to do. It's about what they can or can't do, okay? So producing our own calories is the second big goal we have for this year. And hopefully, if everything goes as planned, all of you are gonna join me on that journey, and then I'm going to expect all the criticism and all of the advice from you guys to make sure that we're doing the best we can and taking a lot of the knowledge I know all of you have and utilizing it to our benefit. So thank you for that in advance, okay? So moving on from there. Another thing that's very important when it comes to survival is water. And the third thing on my list of being more prepared in 2021 and some of my prepping goals, once we have the permanence in the home and everything else, is going to build a water storage system of some point, okay? Or of some type, sorry. What we want to do is build out a water storage system that will allow us to access water during an emergency and eventually create a grid down style retrieval system as well, which means a water retrieval system using a well or something of that sort that doesn't require electricity or pumps in order to access. And that is something that we definitely know we can do and are willing to do and invest in once we have that home and that permanence. So having water and access to it in an easy fashion during an emergency can be the difference of life and death. It can also just be the difference of comfort or not. And that's something that I find very important regardless of how you access your water. And of course, where we're gonna try to purchase property and buy this home is going to have water nearby because it's always important to have natural sources as well. But being able to access a well without electricity, or at least using an alternative form of power such as solar, is highly important. And that's something that we are going to try our best to move towards. And then I want to have a decent supply of water storage on property that doesn't necessarily need any kind of physical energy in order to retrieve, aka storage bins, drums, or whatever it might be, okay? So that's something else that I am definitely working on this year as a prepping goal, okay? So 2021, we're gonna get the property and the home, we're gonna get the livestock and the food, and we're gonna get the water squared away, okay? So moving on from there, the fourth thing on the list, okay, is to basically start working on a solar power capable setup, okay? And what that means is once we have the property, once we have the home, we can establish a power station basically within that property that can produce at least functional power for limited capacity, and then expand on it and continually expand on it until you get to a point where you can power your home without the necessary grid being part of the situation. Now, of course, we all know that being connected to the grid is the more efficient way to go, and having unlimited power is definitely something that we're all going to use and access as long as possible until we find ourselves in a situation where solar can really take over and eliminate bills, or even possibly in some cases make you money. But the goal is to keep adding more and more to it until you get to a point where you can power just about everything you need without any outside interference. So self-sustainability and self-reliance is extremely important, and being able to produce your own power is just as important as being able to produce your own calories and being able to retrieve your own water, in the sense of being on your own. So that is another goal that I have for this year. And I'm not talking about just talking about it in general. I mean, like this year, I'll be working on these things. And I'm just sharing this with everyone because we need to keep being better prepared. We see what's on the horizon. We see what's happening when it comes to our economy, our political atmosphere, and what also is happening in the sense of around the world in regards to the food supply and everything else. So keep in mind that we're not done yet. We're not over it yet. Things are still happening. We need to keep preparing. I'm trying to share some of what I'm doing and working on right now to hopefully give you some motivation or at least even give you some ideas. So creating our own solar power station of some sort and then expanding on it is another goal I have for this year that hopefully all of you will be sharing in soon, okay? Moving on from there, the fifth thing that I am working on in the sense of a prepping goal for 2021 is training. I want to acquire more training. I've had a difficult time getting the training I wanted over these last couple of years just due to moving and finances and everything else related to time, but it's something I find very important, and the things that I'm looking for the most right now is going to be training in regards to first aid, training in regards to operating ham radio, because I find communication to be extremely important. That's another thing I'll be working on as well, which I'm sure you'll be sharing in. Training in the sense of tactical defense, because yes, I've had firearms training in the past. I've had my share of firearms use, and I'm definitely at least well aware of their function and capability, but I need better training. I need somebody more professional that can show me more and take me to that next level that I can't get to on my own. And I want that same style of training when it comes to hunting. Okay, yes, I've been hunting before. Yes, I've taken game, but I want somebody to take me out as a guide and really show me the ropes and get me more involved in the sense of being outdoors and hunting and producing my own calories in an alternate way and learning more about the sport in general, because you know what, I do have limited knowledge on it compared to many other people. And so I'm not afraid to admit I don't know certain things and I'm not as knowledgeable on certain subjects as somebody else. There's plenty of experts out there that know more about just about everything in the planet than I know. But I am willing to take their advice and hear what they have to say and pay them for their time if it helps move me further into my preparedness goals. And that's something that I definitely want to work on and do more of this year. So training is huge. And first aid, of course, is always important, even if you're well versed in first aid. And I've done lots of first aid training in my time. Refreshers are very important. If you don't use it, you lose it. And how often do you use first aid? When's the last time you even did CPR? Let's be honest. So think about that. You have to use it, okay? And tactical training and everything else, it just helps you get to that next level you can't do on your own. Same with hunting. You'll never be as a proficient of a hunter if you don't have someone else show you the ropes. And that is something that I'm really looking for and I'm actually adamant about this year as part of my prepping goals. So you can see a lot of what I'm working on is moving towards self-sufficiency, self-reliance, producing my own food, making sure I have water, and getting that property in that home is number one on the list, because you can't establish a base camp without a base. And you can't invest the time, effort, energy, and money into something that's not yours if you don't know you have a permanent situation. You can't modify your apartment or your rental home the way that you might want to if you want to make it more self-sustainable. So in order to do that, you have to find yourself in a different situation. And you know what? I've owned a home in the past. I no longer do. I'm trying to buy another one. We all go through waves of having to get through different obstacles and different challenges to get to that next step. But planning and setting goals ahead of time is what actually gets you there. And one thing I'm very adamant about and I try my best with is that if I say I'm going to do something, I try my hardest to make it a reality, because it's something that we all could be better at, is going through with our word. I am sure you have the same feeling as I do, in the sense of now that I've put it out there, I feel a little bit more motivated to actually make it a reality, because now everybody's counting on me to actually make it happen. So don't be afraid to set goals. Make sure if you have other goals that I didn't list on my list here for 2021, leave them in the comments below. It's very important that we keep moving forward in preparedness. It's very important that we share our goals with each other so that we can glean ideas, or maybe even learn things we didn't even think about from before, or maybe even we have advice for other people whose goals are something that we've already accomplished, and we can help them on their journey towards those goals. So if you ever have questions for me directly, use my contact form on the website, magicprepper.com, and I'll do my best to get back to you. It does take time. I don't have a secretary or anything like that, so there's a lot of emails, and I try my best to just get caught up when I have the chance. So I appreciate everybody's patience in that regard, and hopefully this video is just a positive one that helps you guys get some ideas, move forward, learn about what I'm doing, and gives you something to look forward to in the sense of watching this channel and understanding that these are things you're going to be seeing very soon. So, without anything else to say about my prepping goals for 2021, that's going to be it for Magic Prep.